What happens when Hollywood royalty sits down for what should be a simple chat about his latest film? In just 36 seconds, one host's arrogant comment would trigger the most explosive walkout in daytime television history. Russell Crowe arrived on the Loose Women's set expecting a standard promotional interview, nothing out of the ordinary. He adjusted his black jacket as he settled onto the purple sofa, offering a polite nod to the studio audience as they clapped. Denise Welch introduced him with her usual theatrical flair, but something in her voice carried a sharpness that made Russell's jaw tighten. "Thank you for gracing us with your presence today," she said, dripping with false sweetness. The emphasis on gracing felt less like appreciation and more like mockery. Still, Russell maintained his composure. "Happy to be here," he replied, the muscles along his jawline working harder than they should. Nadia Sawalha jumped in quickly, offering genuine enthusiasm. "Russell, your new film looks incredible. Tell us about preparing for this role." Russell brightened, grateful for the normalcy. He spoke about months of physical training, dialect work, and spending time with people whose real life experiences shaped the story. Behind the film, Christine Lampard added a warm compliment, but Denise had no interest in kindness or craft. She leaned forward, eyes glinting. "Russell, let's talk about something our viewers really want to know. Your reputation in Hollywood." A cold stillness spread across the studio. Russell blinked slowly. "My reputation? Oh, come on," Denise pressed, wearing a smirk. "Everyone knows you're difficult to work with. You throw phones. You scream at crew members. Directors complain about you constantly. You're basically Hollywood's biggest diva." Nadia shot her a warning look. Christine shifted uncomfortably, and Jane Moore tried to intervene, but Denise waved her off like she was swatting a fly. Russell sat straighter, his fists tightening in his lap. "I think you have me confused with someone else. I take my work seriously, but I treat everyone with respect." Denise laughed mockingly. "Respect? Is that what you call grabbing a producer by the collar last year?" "That never happened," Russell replied, voice steady but cold. "You're repeating gossip as if it's fact." Denise's grin widened. "So now journalists are liars?" This was only the beginning. Her agenda was clear, and Russell would soon reach his breaking point. The tension in the studio thickened with every dismissive laugh that came from Denise. The other panelists could feel it. Nadia kept shifting in her seat. Christine tried to offer small, apologetic smiles toward Russell, and Jane Moore seemed seconds away from stepping in again. But Denise was locked in, determined to escalate. Russell attempted to steer the conversation back to his film. He thanked Nadia for focusing on his work and began describing the depth of preparation required for the role. For a moment, it seemed like the interview might recover. He spoke calmly about his dialect coaching and his time spent with families affected by the tragic events depicted in the film. His respect for their stories was evident in every word. But Denise couldn't stand the shift away from drama. "How noble of you," she interjected with exaggerated sweetness. "I'm sure those families were thrilled to meet such a dedicated method actor. Tell me, did you throw any tantrums while you were researching with them?" A low gasp rolled through the studio audience. Russell's reaction was subtle but unmistakable. His jaw tightened, and his eyes hardened. His voice dropped to a quiet, dangerously controlled tone. "You know what, Denise? I've worked in this industry for 3 decades. I've collaborated with some of the greatest directors in the world. I've never had a director refuse to work with me again. That's because they wouldn't say it publicly," Denise retorted smugly. "Bad for business." "Name one," Russell said, crossing his arms firmly. "Name one director who has said anything negative about me. Name one co-star who's gone on record with such claims." For the first time, Denise faltered. Only for a second, but Russell saw it. Everyone saw it. She quickly masked it with bluster, leaning back in her chair like a queen on a throne. "They don't say it publicly because they're professionals," she insisted. "But everyone knows." Russell chuckled bitterly. "Everyone knows? The mysterious everyone who somehow speaks only to you? Unnamed sources, industry gossip from people who have never worked with me." Jane attempted to salvage the conversation. "Perhaps we should move on to discussing Russell's upcoming projects." "No, Jane," Denise snapped, cutting her off yet again. "Our viewers deserve honesty. They deserve to know what kind of person he really is." Russell's patience was visibly thinning. "What kind of person I really am," he repeated coldly. "I show up prepared. I treat crew members with respect. I don't come on national television to ambush people with lies and accusations." "Oh, please," Denise scoffed. "Spare us the saint routine." The audience began shifting uncomfortably, tension radiating through the room like static. And Russell, finally, was running out of room to remain calm. The atmosphere inside the studio had shifted from tense to volatile. Even the crew members behind the cameras exchanged uneasy glances as the confrontation deepened. Denise sat forward, elbows on the desk, wearing a smirk that suggested she believed she had the upper hand. But the other panelists were visibly distressed. Nadia's hands shook slightly as she attempted to keep the interview grounded. Christine's face was flushed with embarrassment, and Jane looked like she was preparing to walk off the set herself. Nadia tried again to redirect the conversation. "Russell, let's talk about the emotional weight of this role. I imagine it must have been incredibly challenging." Russell nodded gratefully. It was. The themes of this film, loss, resilience, redemption, required tremendous sensitivity. I worked closely with families impacted by the real events. I wanted to honor them. "Ah, how touching," Denise interrupted with pure condescension. "The big scary Hollywood actor playing the hero again. Very convenient for your image." The audience collectively exhaled in disbelief. One woman actually shook her head and whispered, "What is wrong with her?" Russell's eyes darkened. "Are you implying," he said slowly, "that my charity work, my support for families who've suffered, is some kind of publicity stunt?" Denise shrugged, pretending innocence. "I'm just saying people in Hollywood do all sorts of things to make themselves look good, especially people with tempers like yours." Russell stood a little straighter, his voice low and steady. "You've accused me of assault. You've accused me of abuse. And now you're accusing me of faking charity work. You're crossing lines you don't even understand." "Oh, come on," Denise shot back. "Let's not pretend you're some kind of saint. Everyone knows what you're like behind closed doors." "There it is again," Russell replied sharply. "Everyone knows. The same invisible chorus you rely on to justify every wild accusation you've made today." Christine finally found the courage to speak. "Denise, this is unfair. Completely unfair. This isn't how we treat our guests." "Stay out of it, Christine," Denise snapped. "I'm doing the job none of you have the spine to do." Russell's laugh was humorless. "Your job? Your job is to conduct a professional interview. Instead, you're acting like the worst kind of tabloid journalist." Denise leaned back, arms crossed smugly. "If you can't handle tough questions, maybe you shouldn't be doing press tours." "Tough questions," Russell repeated, incredulous. "You haven't asked a single question about my work. All you've done is attack my character." For a moment, the studio fell deathly silent. The air felt heavy, as if everyone was waiting for something to snap. And it was clear Russell was reaching his limit. The silence that followed Russell's words was unlike anything the loose women's studio had ever experienced. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate, their operators frozen as they watched a situation that had long since spiraled out of control. Denise, however, appeared completely oblivious to the gravity of the moment. She smirked, convinced she was still steering the conversation. Russell finally exhaled slowly, the restraint in his posture almost painful to witness. "For 20 minutes, he said, voice steady but edged with fury. "I've sat here while you hurled accusation after accusation, without evidence, without facts, without even the decency to pretend you're being fair." "Oh, please," Denise scoffed. "You're acting like I've committed some crime. I'm just asking questions." "No," Russell replied sharply. "You're making accusations dressed up as questions. There's a difference. A very big one." Nadia leaned forward, her expression desperate. "Russell, truly, your work with the families affected by the story behind the film. It's meaningful. We'd love to hear more about it." Russell offered her a brief nod, appreciating the effort. But it was clear his patience had been drained beyond repair. "I would love to talk about that. I came here to talk about that. But your colleague has made it impossible." Denise rolled her eyes dramatically. "Oh, spare us. You actors are all the same. Can dish it out, but can't take it." Russell turned fully toward her, his presence overwhelming, his voice a low rumble. "Take what? Lies? Personal attacks? Accusations of violence? Accusations that I exploit children for publicity? That's not journalism. That's not even commentary. That's cruelty parading as confidence." For the first time, A flicker of uncertainty crossed Denise's face. Jane finally spoke, her tone firm. "Denise, enough. This is beyond unacceptable." But Denise snapped back. "I'm doing what the viewers want. They want honesty." Russell shook his head slowly. "No, they want integrity. And right now, they're seeing the opposite." He stepped back from his seat, rising to his full height. The audience felt the shift immediately. This was the moment everything changed. Russell glanced around the studio, addressing everyone except Denise. "I've worked in this industry for 30 years. I've worked with demanding directors, intense scenes, and high-pressure environments. But I have never walked out of an interview." He paused. "Until today." Denise shot up in her chair. "You can't walk out. We're live." Russell stopped at the edge of the set and looked back over his shoulder. "Watch me." The audience erupted into applause. Real, emotional, relieved applause. Even some crew members clapped quietly. Jane looked devastated, Nadia ashamed. Russell Crowe walked through the studio doors without looking back, leaving behind a stunned panel, a furious audience, and a reputation for composure that had only been strengthened, not broken, by the chaos.